Welcome to Assistant on Air, where we have conversations with people that build for Google Assistant. I'm Jessica, and I'll be your host today. And today we'll be chatting with Joe, who's a Google developer expert for Google Assistant. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Joe, can you tell us a little bit more about you?
Yeah, my name's Joe. I'm predominantly an Android engineer. I work remotely from the UK. I've been doing Android for about 7 to 8 years now. And recently I've been shifting my focus into more technology areas to learn new things and broaden my horizons.
That's awesome. I know the way I found out about you was your blog post about Chord Assist. Can you tell me about Chord Assist?
Yes, definitely. Chord Assist is an accessible guitar that I built to be used by people who may be blind, mute or deaf. And the idea behind it is to bring music to more people. Music was always something I really enjoyed as I was growing up, and I would just love for more people to be able to have access to that.
Oh, that's awesome. So can you tell me about the technologies that you use to make this happen?
Yes, so there's a bunch of different things happening behind the scene for Chord Assist. The main thing is the assistant, so it's using dialogue flow to power the brains of the guitar, as I call it. There's also things such as Firebase storage it makes use of chord diagrams. So those diagrams are stored within Firebase storage. It uses the Google text-to-speech API to handle anything that needs to be translated to audio and speech and so on. Mm-hmm. And also uses a Raspberry Pi, which is just the machine that drives everything that's inside of it.
That's awesome. So if I have some type of hearing capability that's limited, I could just kind of play the guitar and it will do what? So
the idea is that when you're learning a guitar, like the key thing is chords. So whenever people start to learn the guitar, chords are like the fundamental part of being able to sort of get used to strumming and picking strings and just being able to make up sequences by yourself. So the main idea behind the guitar is to teach you those chords. So for someone who may be blind, for example, they can speak to the guitar and they can request how to learn a chord. So they could say, hey, okay Google, tell me how to play the C chord. And the guitar has 3 different toggles, so you can turn on the braille, you can turn on the screen, and you can turn on the audio. So it provides options for everyone. So depending on where you are at the time of learning, or just depending how you feel and what you want turned on and off. So if you're blind, it will use the braille reader on the bottom of the guitar to read out the instructions on how to play the chord. So it may say E string open, A string fret 1, and so on, to guide you where to place your hands. On the other hand, if you don't read braille, then it has a screen which shows you the chord diagram. So chord diagrams do require a little bit of background knowledge on how they look and how you read them. But that will essentially display a diagram which the user can use. So that may help in situations where also you're deaf. So if you're hard of hearing, you may not be able to use the speaker. So the speaker's used to essentially read out the instructions. It's the same as what's used for the braille, but just in an audio format. Mm-hmm. So if you're deaf, then you would use the screen.
That is amazing. I know I'm not very musically inclined, so I remember when I was reading that, I was like, that sounds like so fantastic, because it is hard and challenging, and you're just opening this up to a whole group of folks that didn't have this as an option before.
And it's interesting because it also has a selection display, so if you're mute, then you can select one of the available chords to learn. And that was one of the things I added at a later date, because as you get more involved in like the accessibility kind of projects, like you start to think about different routes and different avenues that people may enter the experience with, and just opens your eyes a bit more.
Definitely. So what was the inspiration of this action?
So there's a condition that runs in my family called retinitis pigmentosa, and what that essentially does is over time the cells in your eye or your retina sort of die. They show up in eye scans as like black dots and stuff. And what that essentially can lead to is tunnel vision. So my grandmother had it, and her eyesight ended up being like a pin in her later life. So it really does vary between people. Some people don't have it that bad, like they can still have good eyesight up until their lifetime. And so my mum has it as well, and she can't drive, but her eyesight is still good. But she's registered blind, but she can still function. But yeah, so that was the main reason,
Yeah.
the main influence behind it.
That's amazing. That's amazing to be able to identify something that's personal and to be able to build this out and share this out with the world.
Yeah, I definitely think having a close connection with these kind of experiences and seeing what people can go through really like gives you that extra space to think about these things and give you that motivation to be like, I want to make change there.
Yeah, and how has the feedback been from the community when you announced this this project that you're building?
Yeah, I had some really good feedback actually. Like, I think because I kept it quite quiet. Like, I mentioned it once at a conference, like because I kind of wanted to commit to the idea because it was taking me some time to build it. So I was like, if I just tell some people about it, it might be like a bit of a push for me to get heads down on it. But yeah, so no one knew I was building it, and I shared it, and like I think it's quite unique. I don't think that kind of product doesn't exist currently, and I think in the community nothing like that's kind of been built before, and I think there's so much that has been brought together to build it. I think people really liked seeing that combination of things put together, especially for something that's like for a good cause. And yeah, I hopefully it like inspires people to explore similar things and get outside of their comfort zones, because to be honest, I'm not a hardware person. Like, I haven't done much of hardware before, so for me it was a really good experience to learn things, and people know I don't do much in that area, so hopefully it's like, oh, we can do these things as well.
It's doable. If you could go back and talk to old Joe and give him some words of advice, what would you give?
I think initially I would have probably done some user research to begin with, because I think the guitar does a lot. Like, it's got the braille, it's got the screen, it's got the audio, it's got the piece for people who are mute. Maybe some things might not have been needed. Maybe the chord selection area might not have been needed on the guitar. That could save me time. But I would try to just cover as much as I could so I could show that things are possible. As well as some background electronics knowledge would have been good. There was a lot of soldering. I broke a few things. Spent a bit more money than I hoped. But that would have. So my dad's into electronics, so I would have probably asked him for more help. But I asked him for some. I remember on Christmas Day they came up for dinner, and I was like, Dad, can we go upstairs after dinner, because I need you to show me how to do this. But I wish I'd done more of that along the way, because I'm not too strong in that area.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Joe, for hanging out with us and sharing with us this amazing action that you built. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. So we hope that you liked today's show. If you have any suggestions for future episodes, please leave a comment below. And follow us on Twitter for updates on new episodes. I've been Jessica. Chat with you next time.